This is gonna sound kind of dumb, but Celeste for me is like a warm hug. Can a game feel like a warm hug? You can look back on games that you played, you know, a million years ago and revisit them today. Something like, I don't know, Banjo-Kazooie. You play it today and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that, and you slip back into those feelings, and it's kind of like a warm hug. But Celeste is a new game, and it has elements that remind me of other games, but the warm hug sensation isn't because of those games that it reminds me of. It's its own thing. It's just there's something about the entire package that feels like a warm hug. It's just such a wonderful experience. I mean, I know that's a weird way to describe the game as a warm hug, but from beginning to end, everything in between, that's how it makes me feel. Now, I know people are going to look at Celeste and be like, oh great, another pixel art game. Now, I'm not the type of person who looks at a game's visuals and I'm like, I don't need another game that looks like this. Like, I never look at a game's visuals and I'm like, I've had enough of this style. That's just who I am. That's not how I feel about games, and I don't know if that's because I'm an older gamer, so like I grew up when games looked like very rudimentary up to where they are today, and there's younger gamers who started with games on the N64 or the PlayStation or stuff like that, so they look at pixel art and they're like, another developer taking on this style, and they get kind of tired of it. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying for me personally, I don't feel that way. But for those who are looking at Celeste and are like, I don't want another pixel platformer, I really hope you rethink that stance, because Celeste is something special. One of the things I really like about Celeste is how simple the gameplay mechanics are. It really is just running, jumping, and climbing. But the game really pushes them to their limits. You're going to be doing all sorts of things. Like, you're going to walk into a lot of rooms in this game and be like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to do this. But you already know all the mechanics, you know, running, jumping, climbing. So you're like, I know everything I can do, but how the hell am I going to make this work? The way that Celeste takes that handful of mechanics and pushes them to the limit, and really makes you stretch your thinking and really react quickly and put your Twitch skills to the test. I really appreciate it. There's no doubt about it, Celeste is going to be a difficult game for people who aren't into platformers, and it's a difficult game for people who are into platformers. You're going to die a lot, and that's why the game keeps track of how many times you die, because it's going to happen all the time. But, like I said, you just have a small handful of mechanics that are going to get you to the goal, and it's all about figuring out how you're going to use those to get to success. The platforming is certainly the heart of Celeste, but the platforming is not the heart of Celeste, if that makes any sense. As far as gameplay goes, yes, platforming is there, but the heart of Celeste comes from everything put together, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't really pick up on when you watch the gameplay trailers. When I watched them, I had a feeling there was more going on behind the game than just like, here's a basic story and a reason for you, or an excuse for you to jump around a lot. There's just something about the way the story is told and the characters that you meet, and even the way that the color scheme blends into it, which I know is a strange thing to say, but the colors just complement the vibes of the story, the vibes of the experience, and what's going on at the story in a time. It feels so good. It feels, you know what? It feels like something special. And that's something I said to a friend when I was playing this for a review. He was watching me play a bit, and I looked over, like, after finishing the first level, and I was like, this is something special. There's something really unique and interesting going on here. It's got a lot of heart, and that's not something I feel you get out of a lot of platformers. And I love the gameplay of challenging platforms, but having that heart element and story mechanic and the way the characters interact, I don't want to ruin that stuff for you, but I will tell you, I found it really meaningful, and I found it to really flesh out the experience and help make it something that it's going to make Celeste stay with me for years to come. I also have a thing for games that utilize like mystery and secrets and stuff like that, and Celeste definitely does it. Now, the game has collectibles in it, and you can find these strawberries hidden in levels, and they're going to be in little alcoves or little passageways you might not see at first, or blocks that you can break through. And I just love hunting that stuff down, and there's always at least a handful in some levels where I'm like, oh, that's really sneaky that they snuck that in there. But then on top of that, there's just some sort of like intrigue and mystery to the game world itself. And you'll see things in levels where you're like, I don't even know what to do with this. I don't know why this is here, but you know, like, it's something that you can search out answers to later on in the game, or something that might make sense because of the story later on. And I just love that. It's world building. I feel like that does a lot for the game, and those little moments are definitely peppered throughout most of the game, and that helps just draw me in more. All those elements are brought together by the game's soundtrack, which is so phenomenal. When I saw the original trailer for Celeste, I actually reached out to the composer on Twitter to tell them the song in the trailer is so good. It just stirred up feelings in me. I absolutely loved it. I had to reach out and talk to him about it, and we had a little chat back and forth. And I'm happy to say that the whole game has that feeling to the soundtrack. There's all different styles of songs in here, but just everything heightens the experience. It heightens what you're doing so well. And it's a soundtrack that, it's one of the best soundtracks I've heard in recent memory. I just love the construction of it. It does so much to make the experience feel that much bigger. And the way that audio is used in levels, like you'll have a tune playing throughout a level, and then perhaps you'll get to like the outskirts of the level and some elements of that song will drop out, or you might get to like a cliff's edge and there's just like a few notes of the song and no other backing with it, and it all, you know, blends together as you're playing with playing through the game. So from one room to the next, those elements will come and go, and it just makes the experience that much more magical. I cannot say enough good things about the soundtrack. It's definitely good enough to listen to on its own outside of the game, so even if you have no intentions of picking up the game, which I find sad, but if you don't have any intentions of picking up the game, check out the soundtrack on Bandcamp, because it's magical. Everything I've mentioned, when it's all thrown together, is what makes me get the warm hug feeling from Celeste. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. The level design, the color scheme, the music, the gameplay mechanics, the character interactions, all of it mixed together just feels amazing to me. As far as this genre goes, I guess we'll say platformer or expert platformers, it's pretty much a perfect experience. I honestly do not have any complaints with it. It's exactly what I wanted as far as a challenging platformer, yet it offered so much more in how the mechanics are used and the interactions you have with characters and the story and the vibe and all that. It was an absolutely perfect experience for me. I cannot say enough good things about it. I guess the only negative is going to be from people who aren't really that good at platformers, because, like I've said, Celeste is super, super challenging. Even from the first world out, you're going to have struggles, but then you throw in stuff like the B-sides, and these are cassettes that you collect in levels, and the B-sides take the same level theme, but give you completely different stages to go through, and they are difficulty dialed up to 11, like extremely hardcore challenges. But I love that experience. I love walking into a portion of a level and saying, well, I have no chance of beating this. I don't even know what to do. My hands aren't going to be able to move fast enough to pull this off. But then you plug away at it, and like 20 minutes later, you manage to reach the exit of that part of the level, and you're like, man, I am on top of the world. Then you take a few more steps, and you got to do it all over again with another new stage. But I really enjoy that. But for those who aren't skilled in platformers, it's gonna be a struggle. Now, there are things that you can do in the game to make it easier, like there's a slow-mo mode that you can turn on that obviously gives you a lot more time to react, and there's one that you'll be able to turn on like infinite air dodges, which also helps as well. And those are good so people can experience the game and see what it has to offer without getting frustrated by the challenge. But I also think it's not good because those people are going to finish the game and not have that real sense of satisfaction that players get from going through the game without those things turned on. I'm not saying it's wrong to use them. I think it's right to use them. If you're getting frustrated, turn them on and experience what the game has to offer, and you're going to have hopefully a great experience as well, because I think the game is still going to be wonderful even if you use those things. But I think the difficulty of the game is like a metaphor for the game itself. You're constantly climbing upwards to try and achieve success. So you experience what the main character is experiencing as you go along through the game. That might just be me looking too deep into things, but for me, that's what I came out of the experience with, so that's how I feel. I wanted Celeste on Switch from day one. I've been patiently waiting for the game, and all my waiting has paid off. Celeste is everything I could have wanted and so much more. I can't recommend this game enough. Even if you're only slightly interested in platformers, you have to check this one out. One of the best eShop games on the Switch, hands down, one of the best soundtracks I've heard in forever. One of the most masterful platformers I've played in quite some time. I could go on forever talking about how much I love this game, but hopefully I've convinced you to check it out. If you're still on the fence, watch some trailers, or like I said, even just listen to the soundtrack, because that might get you in the mood to check the game out. But hopefully I've convinced you that this game is worth your time, because it was certainly worth mine. Hey guys, RMC here from Go Nintendo. If you like what you saw in the video, why don't you give us a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe? We'd love to have you. If you want to see what else we're up to, you can check out GoNintendo.com for 24-hour Nintendo news. You can visit us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GoNintendo. You can check us out on Twitter at Twitter.com/GoNintendoTweet. And we're even over on Instagram at Instagram.com/GoNintendo. I put all the links in the description just to make it easier for you guys to follow. Thanks a lot!